Okay, so I'm even gonna go over the first step with you. So for B, when you my microphone dropped. So if you hear a loud crash, that's why. Okay, so hey, your R value is going to be the square root of a squared plus b squared. So in this one, my a value is a little different, but we still should know how to do this. 4 root 3 squared. Good, I love that. Yes, good. That's a great way to think of it because 4 squared is 16 and then times 3 because root 3 squared is going to be 3. Good. Plus 16. What's 16 times 3? 48. 48 plus 16. Close. 64. Well, and if it's 64, it'll be nicer, right? Because now all you have for your R value is 8. And then your tangent of theta, I walked around and a lot of you did an awesome job with this. You had the 4 over 4 root 3. Yep. So you have 1 over root 3, which is going to be what? Yes, root 3 over 3.
But you can also rationalize just multiply the top and the bottom by square root 3, right?
Yes. Yep. And that's what I did to get there. Now, remember that this has to be in a specific quadrant. So look at your point. If you have 4 root 3, 4, they're both positive, which means it's in what quadrant? 1. Good. Because it doesn't have to be pi over 6. It could be what?
5 pi over 6.
Nope.
7 pi over 6.
Yes, 7 pi over 6.
My addition was way off.
That. So this is your theta value. This is going to be your R value. Okay, so now that we have those, we're going to plug it into the original equation. And this is your polar form. So, in general, I have r to the 1 over n. So my r is 8, my n is 3. And then it's cosine of theta plus 2k pi or 2 pi k, whichever you want. So this
is a new equation.
That's a new equation, yep. So from the front side. So your new equation is going to be theta, and we already know theta is pi over 6, and then 2 pi k stays the same, and then it's divided by n, and our n value is 3.
Is the 1/3, the exponent, is that part of the new equation, or did you get that from
Yes, so like if you look on your first page here, so it'll be your r to the 1 over n.
Oh, and since it's the cube root, it's 1 over 3.
Yes, exactly. Yep, and then it's theta plus 2k pi over n, so this is going to be 3. We're going to plug in pi over 6 here. We're going to plug in pi over 6 here. Okay, so once we do 0, and 0 I feel like is the easiest one to compute because this whole thing is going to be 0. But let's talk about how I got pi over 18. So I have cosine of pi over 6 divided by 3, and that's just dividing fractions. If you're dividing by 3, it's the same thing as multiplying by what?
Hold on.
Yeah, say it again. Yeah, the 1/3, which is the reciprocal.
What's your n value? Your n value is 3, right?
Yep, so your n value is always going to be whatever root you're taking. Oh, sorry. Okay, and now pi over 18 isn't on your unit circle, so what we can do is we can evaluate the cosine of pi over 18. Okay, and I'm going to just make sure my mode is in radians, because if you're in degrees, you'll have something different. Bless you.
How elaborate do you want us to get in terms of showing our work, like on a test or quiz on this? Because if we show like all our work, there's gonna be like
Why is this why did it change
a
to
million
W? Oh.
pages worth of work. So
It's just that WK.
No, you're gonna want to show this. I mean, show the same thing that I did. Like, see how I didn't put over there pi over 6 divided by 3, because that's something I know you guys can jump to. That's fine. Or even, I mean, is this step absolutely necessary. No, once you have your theta and once you have your r, if you just put like your general form, that's fine. Or I wouldn't mark you down if you didn't put like your general form. The reason why I think it's helpful to do your general form is so you can just refer back to that when you're plugging in your k values.
How'd you get that? The 1.97.
That okay, so you get your 0.98, right? And then we're gonna distribute the 2. So if you have your 0.98 from the cosine of pi over 18, I'm gonna distribute the 2 to get my 1.97. And then I'm gonna, or you can do, I did it in 2 steps, but really you can do it in 1 if you want. And then for the sine of pi over 18, I'm gonna multiply that by 2 so I can distribute. And then you can just always round to the hundreds place.
Why did it go from WK to W?
Oh yeah. Okay, so the k value is what you're plugging in for k. So you're always going to start with 0, and you're going to go up to n minus 1. So if our n is 3, okay, if our n is 3, then we're just going to do 0, 1, 2, because 0, 1, 2 is going to be 3 roots.
So then so when you plugged in 0 for that, so you just did pi over 6 divided by 3. Okay.
Yep, and now what we're going to do is, for the second one, it's w sub 1. So then, McKenna, what are we going to plug in for k?
We're going to put 1 in.
Yes, exactly. So then when you plug in 1, this one, if you're writing this out, if you have pi over 6 plus 2 pi, how can you add those together? Common denominator. So this becomes 12 over 6. Yes, good. And 12 pi plus pi is 13 pi over 6. So it's 13 pi over 6 divided by 3. Which means if I divide that by 3, this is going to be 13 pi over what? 18. So it's really what's happening with the 2 denominators. You're multiplying those 2. And then, for there, you're also going to write it as a decimal.
Can you run through how it's 13 pi over 18?
Oh, yeah, yep. So are you okay with the 13 pi over 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Or
that's...
multiply by 3.
Oh, yeah, so from your formula. So your formula is always going to be divided by 3 here, because it's at n. And so if you're dividing by 3, it's the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. Okay, good. Any other questions for me on that?
Wait, is it supposed to make a circle?
Uh-huh.
How can you have a circle if you only have 3 points?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so this will be a circle as well, and you are going to connect these with a curve. So from W0 to W1, you can kind of see I actually dashed it first. So I'm going to curve it over here, and then I'm going to curve it to W sub 2, and then I'm going to curve it back. Sorry, that's too much. Okay, so if you still have questions, I'm going to come around and help you. And if you're ready to start your homework, go ahead. You are doing 84 through 88, but you're skipping 86. So it is